Hello, guys. Welcome to the Valyou Podcast. Today we have Chase Lima and Gabe Hamaday on our podcast. And one reason I was super excited for this podcast was we have all one theme in common, or one thing in common, and that is sales.
The thing that everybody loves and hates equally.
You either love it or hate it.
Very much so.
I mean, sales bros is like, there's sales bros and then there's like everything else in Utah. But like, it's like a fine line. Like, I can't tell you how many times, and people know that I have a job. They're like, hey, you want to come sell with me? I'm like, bro, I like do it. I do my own thing.
I'm in my own sales industry. I'm on my own sales.
What
I am sales.
If I was to give advice to any like youngster growing up in high school, I would say go knock doors for a year.
For sure.
And I
without
think
a doubt.
It literally beats the fear out of talking to anybody, and it gives you confidence. If you can hack it for a year, it would give you the confidence that you could use for the rest of your life. Would you guys agree?
Oh, 100%.
There's no...
How do you think I scored such a hot wife? No, no, but yeah, I totally agree. Confidence definitely comes from knocking.
What sales tactics do you use on your wife?
On my wife? Ooh, that's rough. That's a question for her to answer.
Hopefully London's not listening.
Yeah, for real.
How long have you been married?
A little over 2 years.
Okay.
No,
so it wasn't
10th,
just a sales job. Like, what, you didn't just sell her.
Yeah, I'm still selling her. I'm still selling her, literally.
You're still always be closing.
Always be closing. ABC, baby. No, yeah, for sure. Sales is applicable to everything and anything, especially your relationships. So
it's actually not even sales. Sales is just communicating. That's like all it is. Like once you like actually learn to I wouldn't even say strategically communicate, but clearly communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, that carries in like every aspect of your life, whether, closing a wife.
No, that's a really good point.
Once you have that skill, you're set for life, literally. If you know how to talk to people, you can do anything.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. So I sold solar for about a year. And I can tell you, so I did the whole mission thing. I obviously I've freelanced by career. So obviously that takes a lot of sales. I'll tell you what though, selling solar has been probably like one of the worst experiences of my entire life.
Oh, really?
Like, because, and I really want you guys' perspective on this, because I went away from that and did kind of my own thing. But I did my own thing because there were times where I would be in the car and I'd just like almost like be shaking. Like, I just did not want to get out and knock my area. And so I guess from your guys' perspective, something that you were saying earlier, it's like 90, what'd you say, 90, 10%? What is that?
Oh, yeah, like 90%, 90. I don't know if it's like a literal thing, like 90-10, but like half of it's selling yourself.
Right.
Like that's a huge part of, sales is being able to sell yourself.
Yeah. So I guess, especially for someone like me, like luckily I had something to fall back on, but say someone that, sales is kind of their only thing, maybe to pay for college or pay for a house or prepare for a wedding, whatever it might be. What would be your advice for someone like that has that anxiety, that maybe isn't confident in themselves or whatever it is, maybe not confident in the product? Like, what would be your number one thing for them to keep going and to sell, essentially, or knock?
Are you answering this or me?
Either it's open floor.
Open forum.
That's a tough question because I vividly remember my first summer knocking doors. I was 20 years old. Gabe was on his mission still. And I remember always messaging Gabe, me and Parker, like, hey, you got to come try this after you're home. He's like, I'm going to outsell all of you. He was so confident.
I was like, it's easy.
It's funny. No, it is funny. And I always tell myself, like, everyone gets their teeth knocked in. Everyone gets anxiety. Everyone gets nervous. Everyone gets sad. It's such an emotional job, whether you're doing door to door or whatever, other industries as well. But definitely the anxiety part is obviously something you just overcome over time. And, you learn to love what you do, but I also recommend selling a product or something that you honestly would buy yourself. And that definitely changes your perspective on how you sell it to someone. Because if, I'm not, I could go make money doing vacuums, door to door, pest control.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously not passionate about those as much as I am solar or alarms.
Yeah.
So, I guess, does that answer your
Yeah.
question
Okay,
in a way?
definitely.
You gotta
So-
get your teeth kicked in.
For
You know,
sure.
that's like you gotta expect it.
Well, it's kind of like something that we're all familiar with. Like you can't know evil, or you can't know good unless you have evil. And like the same concept of like maybe selling is like you can't know like the reward unless you know like the absolute like in the trenches, like you say, get your teeth knocked in.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
well said.
Definitely.
Well said.
That's
you have
like-
to, well, I mean, you have to keep yourself from quitting. Like if you have a few accounts that fall through, you're like, man, I could go get like a 9-to-5 easy and not have to worry about this and just be done with it, you know?
Limiting beliefs.
Yeah. I would say the biggest to get past that, most people when they start out in sales, they have a backup plan or they have a fall plan, right? Like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I'll go into that. Whereas the guys that kill it
You
and
gotta
end up
burn your boats.
you
burn
have
your
to burn
bridges.
all your bridges. I mean, maybe keep some alive, right? Like I wouldn't tell people that give you opportunities to go screw off, right? But
Well, and then I think
you
it's-
have to burn those bridges in order to keep yourself from quitting when you have a bad day, right? Would you guys agree?
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think the caveat to that too, like not that I say I disagree in any way, but I think, and I want to put this on the floor. I think the caveat is have a backup plan, like burn your bridge, like burn all the bridges that you have or your boat or whatever it is. But like at least in my case, there was something else that I was way more passionate that I wanted to sell, right? Rather than solar at the time. So I wonder, especially for anybody that's listening or watching, whatever they are, like maybe they're in something where they burned all their boats, and maybe the problem isn't so much that they're not a good salesman. Maybe like you said, like maybe it's not the product that they believe in. So like, I guess, how have you guys found those products? So you do
Finance.
insurance, cameras,
Yeah.
and solar,
Yeah.
which are so different industries. Like,
Very.
but again, like you said, everything's sales.
I think you also have to recognize like what you have to do to get to where you want to be. Because knocking doors is fun. I enjoyed it. I knew it's not what I wanted to do, but I knew I could use it as a tool to get to where I wanted to be.
Right.
Like you have to learn to sell. You have to learn to communicate with people. And door to door, I mean, ask anyone in this, like that's the hardest type of sale. Like you're literally going out and that day, waking up, knocking on someone's door, and they don't know it, but you're gonna sell them. You're gonna take them from point A to point B and to finish it. Like there's honestly no sales that's harder than that, because that's just, you're doing everything in the process in that moment.
But what makes it so lucrative? I don't know if we want to talk about how much money we make in our individual careers, but I do know Chase made a good lump sum of money last year. But what is it that if it is the hardest job, how are you making as much money? I know there is people that are making millions and millions of dollars a year knocking doors. So what is it about it that you can just kill it if it's so hard?
Well, how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, that's the difference. It would be very different if it was just my first year doing it. It doesn't take it took me 4 years to make the money that I made, or 5 years, and it takes a while, and that's how it is anywhere you go. But just like what Gabe was saying, a lot of people have the mindset of grass is greener. I'm gonna go make money if I go make more money if I go do this, or I'm gonna go be better if I go do this. When you necessarily need to more focus on yourself and where you're at right now. And I think I've just been doing it for so long. I've seen guys leave, come back, and they were in the same spot they were 3 years ago. Whereas if they would have just stuck to it and, focus on developing themselves better.
I think that's like such a huge thing is like realistically, years 1 through 3, you're supposed to fail.
Yeah.
Like you need to fail. Like if someone comes out and it's like their first year and they're, on top, it's like, well, okay, are you on top or are you plateauing? Like you need to fail. You have to get your teeth kicked in. And I think a lot of people have these, false expectations that their first year, they're going to go in, they're going to.
Wait. Explain that. Scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mindset, where they fear of not doing well. They fear of failure, if that makes sense. Like the fear, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people go out and they fear of, like, I know a lot of my friends, you know, I finally have a buddy who's gonna knock with me for the 4th year after trying to get him to come out for 4 years, and he's finally like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out and do it. I've been telling myself I've been doing it for 4 years, and I haven't done it yet, and I'm gonna go out and do it right now. And I think a lot of people just hold themselves back to reach their full potential. You know, they fear of not doing well, and I just think they have that mindset, and that carries on with them for other industries and other work jobs.
I work on, so one of my side jobs, I work part-time in a startup, and kind of a motto that we have in the startup is fail soon and fail often.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So that kind of speaks to what you're saying of like, I can't tell you how many campaigns that we try that like get no traction, but it's like, okay, well, let's not do that thing. Let's not do that.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to fail. You need to get a door slammed in your face. You need to get someone to say no.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to grow. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
I was talking to this guy who he flips big rig equipment, like the equipment that you see at Kennecott Copper Mine, those huge machines. He flips those, and he'll make $100,000 a machine.
Wow.
That's heavy.
That joke.
And I know his son pretty well, and I was like, hey, can we set up a meeting? I just want to learn from the guy. And the bet that he repeated this over and over again. It was the one theme he had through our whole conversation, and that is loving yourself. He's like, you have to love yourself. He's like, if you don't love yourself, you won't accomplish anything. I think it goes with your scarcity mindset, maybe.
Scarcity mindset.
Yeah, I can't even. This sounds weird, but I can't even tell you how many times a day I'll just like say, "Man, I love myself. Like I'm the best."
So,
and I don't do that to be cocky. I do that so the failures don't. I don't fear them. Right?
It's the story you're telling yourself, and it's funny you bring that up. Speaking of Tony Robbins, earlier I went to his event he had in Florida back in November. It was a 4-day event. And he talked a lot about limiting beliefs, and he had us write down. He gave us all 30 seconds. I think it was like a minute. He turned the lights off. We all closed our eyes. Or I guess, no, the lights weren't off because we had to write down some stuff. We wrote down all of our limiting beliefs we are putting ourselves in our head and projecting onto ourselves as to why we're not achieving what we want to achieve. And he gave us like 5 minutes to write everything down. And then he literally, once we were done, this is when he turned off the lights. He literally was saying, okay, where will you be 5 years from now if you don't conquer these limiting beliefs? And we're all like, it's kind of scary, you know, like I'm not going to grow. And he's like, where are you going to be 10 years from now if you don't overcome these fears? Where are you going to be 20 years from now? Are you still going to be the same spot you are right now? And everyone was just like so emotional. Emotions were so high in the room. Everyone, you could hear people like screaming, like crying, because he got so much in our heads of like, you will not go anywhere if you're not going to conquer these limiting beliefs you have on yourself. You are going to be in the same spot. You're not going to grow. Like, and then he just basically, the moral of the story was to conquer what your beliefs that are limiting you from achieving what you want to achieve. And it's pretty cool.
It really does come down to the mindset factor of it. Because it's almost like where I say at a turning point and like a realization, like, okay, like I actually have to change the way that I think. It was my first year knocking doors, and you know, before you do like summer sales, there's pre-seasons, you go out, you knock, and you try it out for a week. So the very first time I went out, it was my first week ever. I went out and I did like 6 or 7 accounts, right? You know, for doing smart home.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that was like, I mean, 6 or 7 in a week for your first year is like super good. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like pretty easy. Like, I don't know what you guys were talking about. Like, so then I go out for the summer, you know, it rolls around. The first month I got my teeth kicked in. I got about maybe like 2 to 3 deals a week. Like it was rough. And I was like, I don't know like what happened. Like it's completely different.
Such a mental.
And then it was Brad Rossiter. He's one of the regionals over at Vivint. I mean, he just absolutely, he slays everything he does. You know, like almost like him and Nate Lords, they're just like salesmen at heart. They're really disciplined with what they do. And I remember Brad took me out knocking one day and he's like, honestly, the biggest thing you got to do is it's all about the story that you tell yourself. Like if you're walking up to the door and you're just thinking like, I'm the flyer guy, I'm going to leave him a flyer, then that's what it's going to be. If you're walking up to the door like, no, I'm going to sell this person, then that's what it's going to be. And I like, that's sort of where I had a flipping point is like, it's all about the story that I tell myself. Like if I tell myself that I'm not going to sell this store, I'm not going to sell them. But if you're walking up and you're like, hey, I'm selling this person, you're going to sell. Like if you're sitting there like, I'm going to close this deal, you're going to close it. If you're not, like you have that thought in the back of your head, and that in a way like will manifest itself. It's like you have to believe in yourself. And then once that happens, it'll almost just portray itself through your actions.
That's what I love about sales is literally everything is so applicable to life. Like
Very true.
not like we're talking specifically sales, but for my wife, her thing that she will not waver from and she's going to do is graduate college, graduate from BYU. With straight A's, and I haven't even tried to like argue with her or like even say
Sway her.
Yeah, sway her in any way because she has a business that she's starting. She would do fine if she didn't go to college,
Right.
And it's just what she does, and it's the same thing walking up to the door or going into that big meeting. If you know that this is going to be the outcome, if that's a story that you tell yourself, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
This has always been a fine line for me, but how do you love yourself without coming off super cocky to everybody else in the world?
I was just talking to Lennon about this same topic the other day because she's very like princessy, like soft, make sure no one's feelings are hurt. And I love that about her. That's one of the traits. Yes. That's one of the traits that I wish I developed and had like she did. But here's what I told her. Here's the but.
The fight.
I was telling her, I'm like, London, that's great. You need to be nice. Yes, you need to care for others, not be selfish, right? You need more like look out for others first. But here's the bottom line. If you want to win in life, you got to be competitive. You have to be cocky. No matter what you do. You have
Confident.
Confident.
Yeah, I would say confident.
Yeah.
Because
Confident.
cocky comes across as
Arrogant.
no one else
I
can
guess
help me.
Yeah, cocky is a bad word, but
think-
you have to be confident.
Yeah.
And you have to be competitive in everything you do, whether you're showing it or portraying it or not. You have to be confident, and you got to always have the mindset of you're going to win.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's just how the game of life works. If you're not going to win, then you're just not going to really go far. If you're not going to have that mindset, you're not going to. And I was trying to teach her this, and she's like, but I want to make sure like they win too. And I was like this when I was younger too. I would always make sure that everyone's, was winning and everyone, had some.
That was not me. I was so competitive.
Yeah.
I was like, you're losing. I'll do anything to win.
Yeah, for real. And I think since door to door, I have gotten more competitive over the years, and my mental toughness has definitely increased from doing door to door. And I like door to door a lot just because it's hard. I like doing hard things.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm God's given gift to this earth, so I don't know.
Right. Well said. Well said. Well
Just
said.
kidding.
look at this guy.
I'm so grateful you were on the podcast.
No, Tyler, you should be too on it.
I really am. Trust me. Speaking of like, I really feel you can be cocky in your own head,
Right.
and you can protrude confidence to other people. Like when I'm driving to work, I'm listening to crappy rap music about
same.
making money and doing crazy stuff. And the
Selling
whole time
bricks.
for it's a 25-minute drive to the office. I'm telling myself that I am the best. I'm the top salesman at Farmers.
Yeah.
And a year later, it actually happened. I told me that I still tell
awesome.
myself, obviously, but for a whole year after these guys left, when I worked with them, that's all I would tell myself. And it was the
Once the
furthest
competition
thing,
went away.
it was the
competition
furthest. It was the furthest thing from the truth. But I kept telling myself that over and over again, and was cocky in my own head until finally the confidence just started like oozing out of me, and people could feel that over the phone.
It's like how
yeah,
you
for
hype
sure.
yourself up. Like people have. I think that's a huge thing with like building your confidence is just getting into like the zone or the mindset is just hyping yourself up, whether it's like, like through music, through whatever it is, like, that's like a huge thing. And I think building your own confidence is thinking to yourself, like, I'm the best there is,
Yeah,
Like, I think that's huge.
for
Well,
sure.
and I like to think of like the world as like an 8-dimensional chessboard, right? And so I always like to picture myself as like the king. Like some days when I'm like really down on myself, I'm a pawn. I'm just like the worst. But then like I have to think about it like, well, if I'm a pawn, I can only move in one direction. And if I'm moving in one direction, I can't help the people around me. I'm only going in one direction. Whereas if you're a king or a queen or whatever it is, you have all these different possibilities to say, oh, yeah, I'm a badass. Let's go.
True.
Yeah.
True that.
Right. So I think it's also like when I wake up in the morning, I think this morning I had to wake up super early and go film a rugby team. And I was like, okay, I have like literally 2 hours for a shoot that literally takes about 6 hours. And I was like, all right, I have these two people. They barely speak English. Let's go. Somehow I direct them. But then in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I realize now in my head that I'm a pawn. From the house to the stadium, I need to become a king. And so I think like, maybe this is just a me problem. So I want to put this on the floor. Are there times when we wake up in the morning and we realize, for the sake of example, that we are the pawn? Or is it kind of like, do you think it's more healthy to always be a king? Is it okay to have those low moments as long as you can get out of them before that you go, sell or whatever it is?
I'd say if you're walking up to that door, you're the king, baby.
My point is like, is it
Yeah.
okay to always be a king, or is it, sometimes okay to?
There's definitely times where I think you should have highs and lows.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're trying to say is we should definitely learn from being a pawn and know how to always be a king, but at the same time, we have to be a pawn to learn how to be a king.
I also think, sort of like some days it's like, you wake up, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I'm tired. I'm not a king today. That's where like discipline comes in. It's like, oh, like there's like my daily routine is like wake up between like 6:30, go to the gym, after the gym, eat breakfast, go to work.
You're huge.
I try. I'm trying to get like Tyler. But waking up at that time, it's just like there's some days I'm just like, I don't want to go. Like I'm so tired. My bed is warm, cozy. But that's like discipline is like, you just got to, even though I'm feeling low, well, you just got to get up and go.
Yeah,
For sure.
Because like that's, at least for me, that's how you start off your day. Like if you're starting it off on a low, at least get yourself to a high to get ready for the day.
Have you guys heard the book? Oh crap, I'm not gonna remember it. A Navy SEAL wrote it, and this Navy SEAL,
Can't hurt me.
it's called "Make Your Bed Every Day."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard of
Yeah,
that.
he gave that speech at a graduation, I think.
Yeah. So he wrote a book, kind of like expounding on that idea. So this guy literally like had
Accomplishing
a parachute.
one task in the morning and then
Yes.
all the rest of the tasks are easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like this guy, for those that don't know, he had he was a Navy SEAL, and in training after he became a Navy SEAL, it's just like warm up or whatever, like keep on top of your game. He had a parachute accident and like broke everything. His back, his spine, his legs, his forearms, like everything. And that part where you go from like one of the best Navy SEALs, high performing, blah, 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 to, okay, now I'm bedridden for the next year or so, or whatever it is. He always remembered to try to make his bed. Because if he went to bed that night and literally accomplished nothing because he was broken, he's like, at least I made my bed that day.
Yeah.
Like, at least I did that one thing. So like the same thing about going to the gym. It's like, my bed is so friggin' warm. Like I'm so happy. But like if say the office was closed or whatever happened after the gym, like at least you did the gym.
Yeah.
Like at least you got up and
You
did
still
it.
did that. Yeah.
Can't hurt me. The David Goggins. He's like,
He's a wild animal, bro.
Dude, that
Seriously,
guy,
that book,
that guy.
He is built different. Like literally, the definition of built
he talks
different.
about it all the time. He's like, if I don't wake up, go for a run, and get my morning wins, he's like, then life has pretty much taken control over me because I can't control the day. As soon as I walk out that door, whatever happens to me happens to me. But if I can control my morning, then I'll have those wins.
That's cool.
Something that I've been obsessed with lately is investing in yourself. We talked about this a little bit, Chase. But what are some tips that you have for investing in yourself?
I read a lot. I just say reading.
Reading.
Definitely one of the biggest things.
How do you
I
invest
saw
in
your
yourself by
bookcase,
reading?
dude.
Just to kind of pick your brain.
What do you mean? Like just what kind of books do I read or?
Well, more, I mean, if you'd like to, but more like, So when someone says invest, I'm thinking stocks, I'm thinking cryptocurrency,
Right.
I'm thinking maybe NFT. Shout out NFT life.
I think invest in yourself, meaning like educating yourself to become a better version of yourself.
Tony Robbins talks about this. He says happiness, progress equals happiness.
Oh, for
if you're not
sure.
progressing, you won't be happy. So how do you invest in yourself to progress in your industry, in your personal life?
I made a New Year's goal to cold plunge every single day. And so I literally, I showed Gabe, but we went to Home Depot and, I saw like another goal of mine was to read 2 books a month.
Nice.
Which has been like easier than I thought it was, which was weird. I thought it was gonna be hard, but no, we literally went to Home Depot and bought a $200 trough, like a horse trough thing. And I filled up with water, and I actually haven't plunged today. I go every day after the gym. I do for about five minutes in the plunge, and I think just little things like that help your body definitely ends up helping you in the long run. And I've definitely felt a lot better doing it. I'm not as sore. I'm just more alert. I'm like happier, and it's just weird. Like it's weird that cold therapy does that to you, and then I'll wake up early and read for 30 minutes to about an hour. Just finance books, business books. This next book I'm reading really doesn't have to do with like my sales. It's, guys know who Mark Hyman is, Dr. Mark Hyman. He talks about food. So I'm literally about to read this book about like what to eat.
I love that.
So I like to just learn things, because if I'm not learning, I just feel like I'm not being productive. I'm not
Get in your
growing.
head.
I'm just like, I'm not like, why? Like, it's just a waste of a day for me if I'm not listening to a podcast or,
Sure.
reading a book. And so those are the types of things that I do to invest in myself. It just
Well
more or less I just try to read as much as I can and listen to podcasts when I'm driving. I'm always driving, so I'm always trying to listen to podcasts rather than music. Even though music seems more appealing, podcasts will end up helping me in the long run.
I've actually noticed that. I feel like as a society, we're like moving away from music.
Yeah.
I don't know, like at least I am.
I listen to podcasts at least once
If
a
it's a
day.
good one, you'll get me for a while
Real
on
estate
that one.
investing, anything.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah.
When I get in the car and like I listen to a playlist, I'm like,
Yeah.
let's learn something. What about you? What do you think?
Well, like
Seminars.
when you invest in general, right? I mean, let's say like, for example, looking at a company, you want to invest in a new company. What do? You dissect it. You want to look at like the analytics of the company. You want to make sure the foundation is good. You want to make sure like the balance sheet is good, the finances are in order, the debt's in order, all that stuff, right? So if you're doing that for yourself, like what do you want to look at? And I sort of like base it as like, who do you want to follow? Like I feel like investing in yourself also sort of comes like hand in hand with a mentor. Like, someone that like you're going to follow their example.
Investing
because
in a mentor, because you can definitely do that. Or
Well, you
just
can do
finding
that, but,
someone
like-
to look up to.
Yeah, like finding someone that you're like,
Definitely.
I want to be like him. Like he's got his life in order. Like I've dissected it.
for
I
sure.
like what his habits are. And like, I know those habits
Me and
are going to
Gabe
get me
literally-
there.
Yeah, we literally drove down to Provo a couple weeks ago and listened to Bodie Gardner.
Yeah.
You guys should research. I don't know where you can research him. He used to be a VP over at Vivint, worth millions and millions. I don't even want to say a number because people probably won't believe me.
Yeah.
But this guy came and spoke in front of everyone, and me and Gabe, out of all of our friends, drove all the way down because we realized just being and listening to him for about an hour will just increase our knowledge and just
And looking at his habits, like what he
Yeah.
does, like I'm going to apply that into my life. And
that was proximity's power.
before my second summer when I went out, actually before when I was working with Tyler, and I don't know if you remember this. I mean, I was like, I don't want to say like my life was in shambles, but like I to save my life, I couldn't wake up before 9. Like that task seemed near impossible. I was fat. I don't know if you remember how thick I was. I think I reached like 215. Now, granted, I was bulking, but like I was eating everything in sight and just going
There's
to the
a
gym.
limit.
Yeah, like there's a limit.
There's a limit.
I won't pass the limit. Like we would play spike ball in the office, and I was like, after one round, I'm sweating, I'm dying, And so I was like, okay, something's got to change.
Is this over at Farmers?
At
This is at
Farmers.
Farmers,
When
my
you would
office.
wrestle Aaron?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I was 215. I was 215. I was strong as an ox. Aaron is like what, 120? like
He's
five
like
something.
He's 150.
150, dude, whoops my ass. Like I wasn't even fair.
That's
now.
wild.
I mean, who knows? It's a different story. Aaron doesn't know what's coming towards him.
He doesn't know
But
what's coming towards him.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Like and then I realized like, hey, I got to change my life. And that was like the second summer I went out, and our manager, or I guess I'd say even like both our mentor Nate Lords, he's like, I looked after him. I'm like, yeah, like he's on the right track. Like I'm just gonna follow his habits. And like for the first 2 weeks when we got out there, like 5:30, 6 in the morning, we go run 3 miles. After the running, we go to the gym.
Yeah.
After the gym, we study. And then after we study lunch, and we go hit the doors. And that became my routine. I mean, it's still minus the running. I don't run as much. I need to, but like that's still my routine. Like I wake up at 6, hit the gym. That's really what like established myself. And that's where I was like,
Those morning wins, right?
Yeah,
that
like
we
I
talked
gotta
about
invest in
early.
myself. And I mean, Nate, he's like, I would say he's like my biggest mentor in like investing in yourself, changing your mindset, and like putting yourself on the right track to get to where you want to go.
Have you guys seen that guy on TikTok who has like the handlebar mustache, super thick? He's jacked out of his mind.
Maybe.
Has long hair. He sales guy. I'm pretty sure he sells like protein powders and stuff like that. Multi-millionaire, owns several gyms. He has a quote. The TikTok's like a minute and a half long, and I listened to it probably 10 times because I wanted to write word for word what he was saying. Because it meant so much. So I just want to hear what you guys have to say about this. But
What's his name again? Do we know?
Give him a shout out.
I wish I'll look it up really quick. We'll put a link in the description.
Subscription, bro.
Link in the
Subscribe
bio.
above. Subscribe right here. All those YouTubers.
So he has these sales guys that come up that have made 20, 30 grand. They have it in their bank account, and they'll say, what kind of investment should I get into? And he'll respond to them, I'm pretty sure I didn't have any money in my bank account until I had millions of dollars in my bank account in a couple of months. The reason for that is because my belief is that you should spend all of the money that you have to acquire skills until you can't spend money acquiring skills anymore. And you can pretty much always spend money to acquire skills if you just do it differently. The higher up I go now, I have to make donations to charities in hundreds of millions of dollars in order to get access to the boards of those charities, who are other dudes who can donate hundreds of millions of dollars to those charities, so that I can then see what they know, so that I can learn faster. For me, as soon as I heard that quote, which was like probably a year ago, or that TikTok, I was like, okay, I'm not putting a cap on how much money I can spend on books every single month. That's just off the board. I will spend whatever I can to get a hold of a book. And obviously he's on a whole nother level, thinking about spending millions of dollars to acquire skills just to get in front of people who have skills that you don't have.
It's sort of like Casey Bond, Bodyguard. Like they spent
Harvard Business
School.
School.
They did Harvard Business. It's things like
They
that. Like
bought themselves into Harvard.
Whoa.
So that like Harvard.
Bro, are these
Business
guys
School,
at Vivint?
yeah, they were the vice presidents.
were?
And
they were
yeah.
the VPs, and now they just do their own thing. But they always come speak at Vivint just because they still have equity and they still love it there.
Yeah,
but
you'll notice that like a lot of people even like I've even thought about like going back to certain classes in school that are like economics. I love economics. I would love to go take like a macroeconomics class. Like, yeah, that's going to be semester's worth, but that's worth it because I'm learning, And like, for example,
100%.
there's different designations that I'm going to do down the road that it's an investment, but like it'll be worth it because I'm learning more in my industry and it'll help me. So that's also another thing, I guess, in investing in yourself is like he said, like those educational, like education is huge. You should never stop learning, especially if you can invest in yourself, and whether it's books, courses, whatever it is.
YouTube University.
I was gonna say, what
For real.
that would be huge.
But these guys bought their way into Harvard?
yeah.
I think that's a whole nother podcast.
How the heck?
Yeah, I would definitely try to get them onto your podcast. They're the coolest people ever. Yeah, sometimes I'll reach out to them, text him like, hey, thank you so much for everything you've done. Like, they're so cool. But yeah, they're super smart people, and I don't even think either of them have like a college degree, but they went into Harvard. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How do you
Yeah.
buy your way and you just
You
make
just
a
follow-
donation.
you follow the money
grades
trail.
don't
That's what they
matter
are
or
saying.
Hey,
whatever.
how much do I have to pay to take your
Yeah.
courses? And they're like, this much. You're like, okay, and they write a check.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's an investment in themselves too, and they've
Because
Yeah.
they went out there, like, you gotta send it out there. It's still, there's still different like qualifications you got to get, and they're like, all right, we're gonna do this. And I think it was like it's like a 3 or 6 month program that they just went out there and they were there, like, doing it, learning. Like, they set that time aside to do that.
when I was
That's
I
crazy.
went to Harvard when I was in Boston, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I think it's different, like saying, oh, I want to go to Harvard, than actually being there and be like, okay, I'm coming to Harvard. And you could physically feel the university. You're like, okay, I'm going to be here one day. Whether that could be applied to anything, but
Is that your
actually-
goal? You want to do the same thing?
I don't know.
He wants to go to Yale, not Harvard. Come
Yeah,
on now.
that would be cool too. But no, I just think it's cool just seeing it in person. I've never been there before, and we were there in November, and it was so cold, but it was dope.
I wonder if, with this new, podcasting, obviously technology is there for so many different people. I wouldn't say podcast specifically, but just like technology in general is like opening the doors that they can have like mini Harvards, mini Yales everywhere. And so like, kind of one of the goals of the podcast is to have this place where people can come and learn and listen and whatever, obviously, like we've been just talking about. But like, I wonder, and I want to see what you guys feel about this. I wonder in the near future, because I know about some schools that are kind of in the background right now that are creating little like technical schools where if you want to come business, maybe it's not Yale or Harvard, but man, we can teach you in a couple months or a year or whatever. For instance, my wife, she applied for a really prestigious nursing program, and she was like a 0.01 point off of getting into the program, which has ended up to be like the best thing for her, because she went to a technical college and was able to get her degree within a year versus a 4-year program.
Yeah.
Again, because of the technology. So I wonder, is Harvard or Yale even worth it? Like, because like the energy is there, but could we do little energies here or there for those people that maybe not have that opportunity?
Right.
There's better ways to
I think
invest
if
in yourself
you
now.
know what you want to do too.
Yeah.
That's
well
like
said.
like she knew she wanted to be a nurse. So it's like if I want to be a nurse, why do I need to learn about like, well, I think history is important. Why do I need to learn about like economics or like math, like science, completely different.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, she's not going to be using that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and I
think
want to be
like,
clear. I don't want to take the steam out of that comment, because obviously, like I've been to Stanford and there is that energy there. But I really do believe maybe it's not for everybody, and like maybe they can't get to that point. And I just wonder, because you guys, I'm sure that we could get to that point because we have that infrastructure behind us to be able to do that. So I just, again, I want to be clear. I don't want to take your steam. Like that's not what I was doing. Just seeing your guys' opinion on that.
No, yeah, I'm not in school right now, but there's a reason. Like, to me, it's just the opportunity cost of going and getting my degree than doing what I'm doing now. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, what one's gonna benefit me more like right now? Obviously, my job is. So, I definitely want to go back. I think schools. I love learning.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go back and get my economics and finance and stuff, just because that will be more applicable to me.
Of course.
I think it's funny when kids go to college, they get everything done right away, and they're like, wait, I actually wasn't passionate about that degree. I should have done
Well said.
this instead.
Yeah.
I think everyone should take at least a year or two to reflect on what they want to go into before they spend money. But it's just my opinion.
No, I think that's.
I
well
would
said.
say school is not the place to figure out what you want to do.
No,
If you're going to school to figure out what you want to do, you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money
Oh yeah.
changing stuff around and going different routes.
Well, my wife, when she didn't get in, she met with her counselor to see if there was any options. The first thing the counselor said, well, you could go into this avenue, rather than saying, hey, there are other schools. It was, hey, let's do this program instead. We didn't
it's a
get into the
big
nursing
business,
program.
yeah.
Let's do over here, or let's do over there.
Wow.
So like, no, it's not the way to figure it out, because
Yeah.
you'll be stuck.
Well, it goes back to this is kind of on the same topic, but one of these I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do the sales route with farmers, and I was speaking with a guy he's just one of my family friends, and he was in I think it was like selling health products to hospitals or something like that. And I was like, I'll ask him some questions. Like, would you say sales is a good route to go? If you were to do it all over again, would you do sales? And he's like, if I went in with the mindset knowing that this is what I'm going to do, there's no other option besides that. There's no fallback plan. This is what I'm going to do. And to go to your point, he says, I meet with doctors that are worth millions of dollars. And when they first started out on the doctor route, that was their only option. They didn't care how many times they got rejected. They didn't care who told them no. If they didn't get into this school, they had to try another school. If they didn't pass this test, they had to try to go around it. But that was what they were going to do. And he says those people always end up being the most successful and end up being the highest paid doctors that he knows.
So I like sales so much because you learn rejection. You learn how to overcome rejection. You learn how to handle rejection. You don't learn that in school.
Yeah.
No one can teach you that unless you teach yourself that on the doors or over the phone or business to business. The sooner you learn how to handle rejection, then it just becomes easier to handle it down the road.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think people are afraid to get told no.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't go do sales, because no one likes being told no. I still hate it. It's been 5 years.
Do you think it's the fear of getting told no or the fear of failure?
Fear of failure for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's also like the fear of security.
Yeah.
Like people,
Want the
like when you
safe
go
and
out, like
secure
you
jobs.
gotta, if you don't sell, you don't eat, like
Yeah,
that's,
we're 100%
that's
commission.
pretty,
You know,
like
you kill, right?
that's really how it is. And like, yeah. And one thing I've come to learn is like some people like that security though. I'm like, that's totally fine.
Right.
But then some people like us, like we're fine if, we don't get that sale. Yeah. It's going to be different, but sure. We'll just try again the next one.
Yeah.
And I think like,
there's always a way around it.
it definitely is like in each to their own. Cause like I used to have that mindset. I was like, I don't understand. Like, why would like, why don't you just go out and sell? Like, yeah, you may like suck for the first couple months,
The
but like it'll
skill
make
set you
up,
learn.
but like some people just like the security. I'm like, that's now that I've like gotten, I guess like older, even though I'm only 24, I'm like, okay, I can see that. Like people want their security. That's fine. I'll take the risk. I'm fine handling the risk as well.
Well, I mean, I almost didn't marry my wife because of that same topic, because she's very much the security. I mean, nurses are always going to be needed, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm very much not that. Like
I'll figure it out.
She like saves people's lives. Like I play with cameras for a living. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's so interesting. And like for her, because we've had conversations about this, at least if someone's out there trying to find a spouse and there is that dichotomy between the two of you, I think from my perspective, again, put it on the floor, you have to show that you're like into it. Like you're actually wanting to do it. And it's not just a gimmick. It's not just, it's summer
You're
sales,
passionate about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think there is that stigma in the sales community. Obviously, I opened the podcast with like, sales bros, come sell with me sort of thing. That is so much more of a money grab. But like, and like looking back after what you guys have said, I wish I would have stuck in it with it for a couple of years, but I dropped out, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like, I'm done. So I guess to those people, like you say, just stick to it.
Just find what you want to do and do it. Burn your bridges.
Yeah.
Like what Gabe was saying, it's just a vehicle to take you where you want to go. Like for me, it's just how much capital can I acquire to invest? That's kind of my mindset with it. Because I don't want to rely on door to door. I'm not going to be self-employed. I want to be an investor, and receive passive income from investments or just invest into companies. It's all diversified that way, but definitely it's a vehicle for sure.
You're definitely on the right route to do it.
It's fun. Yeah. I like it.
I think the biggest takeaways I've got from this podcast is invest in yourself no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's money that you have to do it with or if it's your time. Both are super important, but invest in yourself no matter what. And I also think the morning wins that you can get is definitely what you should be focused on. And if you can focus on those, the rest of the day will be what it is, will fall into place as long as you can control what you can control. And that's usually ends up being your morning. What about you, Tanner? What are some of the valuables that you took away?
I mean, I kind of have this like personal cathartic experience just because sales has always been this like, well, at least the summer sales situation has always been like this like kind of nail in my side of my history. And, you know, I've always come to terms with, well, it just wasn't my thing. So I guess my main takeaway is just because you're not good at selling one thing doesn't mean you're not good at selling. It just means maybe you don't believe in that product.
Brian Tracy talks about that in his book, Psychology of Selling. Cool. He talks about that exact same thing. It's like some people quit because they're like, like they had that one rejection or that one cancellation. But they just push through it and they'll get that one sell finally and they'll feel that high they get. And it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
So
Get that win.
get that win.
Yeah. What about you guys?
Discipline. Find what you want to do and just do it. Dedicate yourself to it. You know, you really do have to burn your bridges. Like, if you're really trying to go somewhere, you can't really like have like, okay, this is my fault. Like, if you're genuinely passionate about something, do whatever it takes to make it happen. You know, like realistically,
Be
like
resourceful.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing Tony Robbins says. He's like, resourceful people are resourceful. Like, if they don't have the resources, they're going to find the resources.
Right.
And everyone always complains, I'm not successful because I don't have X or Y. It's like, no, it's just because you're not resourceful.
You got to learn how to find X or Y or find the path to get there. Like,
exactly. It's not because you lack resources. It's because you lack resourcefulness.
He always says one of Tyler's things like, talk is cheap. Talk is so cheap. In that same sense, it's like you're just not. You can talk a good game, but like if you're not like finding the resources into making it work, it literally it's free. Your talking is free.
Yeah.
You're just speaking out of your ass.
Yeah.
Talk is cheap.
It's funny when like people are like, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. It's like, well, go figure it out. Go find the money. If you're that dedicated, you'll go find money. If you were that dedicated, if you find
Uber,
time,
DoorDash.
you'll find a side hustle. You'll figure it out.
When you ever heard a crackhead say, I can't get crack, you know?
They'll do whatever they can to find crack,
you know,
for that night. No, for sure. It's like,
said.
If you're dedicated, you're going to go and you can get it.
Yeah.
You just have to be
resourceful.
What's your takeaway?
Mine?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
be like me.
in your dreams, baby.
Yeah, freaking worship this guy over here. His religion is down in the description.
Dude, if they can't hear the sarcasm,
Come to my church on Sunday.
if they can't hear the sarcasm on your
Church of
voice.
what?
Church Gabriel, Archangel.
He does this.
Oh man.
It's that big white one on the hill.
Yeah, for real. I'd say my takeaway is just like what Tyler was saying. You know, I've learned a lot from you guys from just investing in yourself, like what we talked about earlier. I think that's the most important thing that a lot of people don't do. And I always tell people this, and Nate always reminds me of why we do our job. Like you work like no one else, so you can be like no one else. Or you know,
I love that.
You work like no one else. Like no one else is willing to go out and knock doors, 2 to 9 every day. So that way you can live like no one else.
Yeah.
Right. And you just got to be willing to do things that not everyone's willing to do to be successful.
Well said.
Very true.
Well, we're definitely going to have you guys on again.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so.
We need to have you for sure on again to talk about Tony Robbins and that experience. I think we could talk for another hour and a half about that.
I could go off about that. I could bring in my notebook. I have pages of notes from that whole experience. It was awesome.
Bringing Tony, huh?
Yeah, I'll just bring
Tony.
Screw that.
Can you imagine? He just walks in, like, whoa.
Hey guys.
What's up, man?
Hey, bud.
Welcome to my basement apartment.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh,
I don't live in a basement apartment. It's a mansion. Yeah.
Mansion on the
This is my
hillside.
mansion. I just happen to be in the basement.
You're
area.
right.
Yeah.
It's my
only
second
place we
basement.
could do the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, again, thanks
cool.
for coming on. We will attach your Instagrams
Below.
in the
LinkedIn. Screw Instagram.
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
where
That's
can
my
people
bio.
find you? Where can people find you?
I'm not active on on LinkedIn. I am active on Instagram, but yeah.
Just Google me, Gabe Hamaday, HAMIDEH. Church of.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Sweet.